The massive space station floated in the dark void between stars. Its metal halls stretched for miles in every direction. Thousands of different alien beings moved through the corridors. Some walked on legs like spiders. Others floated in glass tanks filled with purple gas. A few looked like living crystals that sang to each other in musical notes. This was the Galactic Senate, the heart of government for most of the known universe. Once every month, representatives from across the galaxy came here to make laws and settle disputes. Today was no different from any other day. Except for one thing that would change everything, not Ambassador. Zix-9 of the Zephyrian hegemony clicked her 4 arms together as she entered the great meeting hall. Her insect-like head turned left and right, taking in the sight of hundreds of other species. The Zephyrians were proud warriors, known throughout the galaxy for their strong military. Zix-9 had fought in many battles and feared nothing. At the center of the hall stood a platform made of pure energy. On it, Elder Threkos waited for the session to begin. Threkos was older than most civilizations. He looked like a cloud of glowing gas held together by an invisible force. His voice could be heard in the minds of every being present. "Let us begin with the reading of our most sacred law," Threkos announced. His words echoed in thousands of different languages as the translation systems kicked in. A young diplomat from the Aquarian Federation raised one of her blue tentacles. "Elder Threkos, why do we always start with this old rule? Some of us have never even heard the full story." Threkos' glow grew brighter. "Because, young one, some rules exist for the safety of all life. Listen well." The great hall fell silent. Even the crystal beings stopped their singing. Threkos began to speak the words that every member of the Galactic Accord knew by heart. "Under no circumstances shall any member species make contact with or disturb the beings of Sol 3, also known as Earth. Any attempt to communicate with, observe, or enter their star system will result in immediate removal from the Galactic Accord. All protective treaties will be canceled. This law cannot be changed or ignored." Zix-9 clicked her mandibles together, making a sound like laughter. "Elder Threkos, surely this is just an old story. How dangerous could one small planet really be?" Several other young representatives nodded in agreement. The galaxy was huge, with millions of worlds and countless species. How could one planet matter so much? Threkos' energy form began to pulse with what looked like anger. "You speak of things you do not understand, Zephyrian. I was there during the Terra Wars. I saw what the humans could do." The hall grew even quieter. The Terra Wars were legend now, stories told to children to teach them about the old days. Most beings thought they were just myths. "Tell us," said another young voice from the crowd. "What really happened?" Threkos floated down closer to the assembly. His voice became softer, but somehow more frightening. 3,000 years ago, the humans appeared in our galaxy like a storm. Their ships were faster than anything we had seen. Their weapons could crack planets in half. But it was not their technology that made them dangerous. It was something else. He paused, letting his words sink in. They fought like wild animals, but with the intelligence of the greatest minds. When we destroyed one of their ships, they would study how we did it and make sure it never happened again. When we won a battle, they would learn from their defeat and come back stronger. Zix-9 shifted in her seat. But they lost the war, did they not? They are trapped in their own star system. They did not lose, Threkos said firmly. They chose to leave. The hall erupted in whispers and strange alien sounds of confusion. "That is impossible," declared General Korth of the Titanium Collective. His metallic body clanked as he stood up. "No species abandons a winning war." Threkos' glow grew dim with old sadness. The humans had conquered half the galaxy. Our fleets were broken. Our worlds were burning. Then, one day, they just stopped. Every human ship turned around and went home. They put up a barrier around their star system and never came out again. Why? Asked the young Aquarian diplomat. We never found out. We sent messages asking for peace talks. No answer. We offered them anything they wanted. Still nothing. They simply vanished behind their barrier and left us alone. Zix-9 stood up, her warrior instincts making her angry. So we have been afraid of nothing for 3,000 years? They ran away like cowards. They did not run, Draco said, his voice now carrying a warning tone. They chose mercy, and we should be grateful for that choice every day of our lives. The elder continued his story. After the humans withdrew, our leaders met here on this very station. They were terrified that the humans might change their minds and come back. So they made the rule. No contact. No observation. No interference. Leave them alone, and maybe they will leave us alone. But surely they are weak now, argued another Zephyrian representative. 3,000 years of isolation must have made them soft. Thrakos laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Young fools. Do you know what our deep space monitors show us about their star system? Nothing, admitted Zix-9. The barrier blocks all our sensors. Exactly. For 3,000 years, we have had no idea what they are doing in there. They could be sleeping peacefully, or they could be building weapons that would make their old fleet look like toys. We do not know, and that is why we must never find out. The session continued for several more hours, but the young representatives were no longer listening carefully. Zix-9 kept thinking about what Thrakos had said. The Zephyrians were the greatest military force in the galaxy. Surely they could handle one isolated planet. As the meeting ended and beings began to leave for their home worlds, Zix-9 made a decision that would change the fate of every living thing in the galaxy. Commander Vex, she whispered to her military aide, prepare a stealth mission to the Sol system. It is time we learned the truth about these humans. The aide looked nervous. But Ambassador, the law forbids. The law is based on old fears and older stories. Zix-9 cut him off. We will not make contact. We will simply observe from a safe distance. What harm could there be in looking? As the great space station continued its orbit in the void, none of the departing representatives noticed the small Zephyrian military ship that broke away from the main fleet and headed toward the outer rim of the galaxy, toward a small yellow star called Sol, toward a sleeping giant that had been patient for 3,000 years. The universe had one rule about humans. Someone was about to break it. The Zephyrian stealth ship Mandible's Edge moved silently through space toward the Sol system. Commander Zix-9 stood on the bridge, watching the stars grow brighter as they approached the Forbidden Zone. Her ship was the pride of the Zephyrian military fleet, equipped with the best hiding technology in the galaxy. Commander, called out her science officer. Vex 7. We are now 2 light hours from the Sol system barrier. Zix-9 clicked her mandibles in satisfaction. The mission had taken 3 weeks of careful travel through empty space. They had avoided all trade routes and sensor stations. No one in the Galactic Accord knew they were here. Show me the barrier on the main screen, she ordered. The view screen flickered to life, showing what looked like empty space ahead of them. But their instruments told a different story. Energy readings showed a massive field surrounding the entire Sol system like a soap bubble made of pure power. Impressive, admitted Lieutenant Kex-4 from the weapons station. The barrier extends past the orbit of their outermost planet. It completely hides everything inside. Zix-9 studied the readings. How old did Elder Thrakos say this barrier was? 3,000 years, Commander, replied Vex 7. Our records show it appeared the day after the last human ship left our space. And in all that time, no one has tried to peek inside? The records show several unauthorized attempts in the early years. All the ships disappeared. After that, the law was made even stricter. Zix-9 walked closer to the screen. The barrier looked so simple, just a faint shimmer in space that their sensors could barely detect. How dangerous could it really be? "Launch sensor probes," she commanded. "Keep them at a safe distance. I want to know everything about this barrier." 3 small probes shot out from the ship and moved toward the energy field. They stopped several thousand miles away and began scanning. Data flowed back to the ship's computers. "What do you see?" SZIX-9.VEX-7 studied his instruments with confusion. "Commander, this is very strange. The barrier seems to be made of folded space-time. It is not just hiding the system, it is somehow making it exist in a different dimension. Explain that in simple terms. Imagine you have a box. Now imagine you fold the box so that it is no longer in the same room as you, but it still exists somewhere. That is what this barrier does to the entire Sol system." Zix-9 felt a chill run through her exoskeleton. The humans had built something that could move an entire star system out of normal space. 3,000 years ago, before they had access to the galaxy's most advanced science. "Try a closer scan," she ordered. "Move the probes to just outside the barrier." "Commander," warned Lieutenant Kex-4, "perhaps we should report back to command first. This technology is far beyond anything we understood." "We came here to learn the truth," Zix-9 snapped. "Move the probes closer." The probes crept forward until they were almost touching the shimmering barrier. Suddenly, their sensors went wild. Alarms began ringing throughout the ship. "What is happening?" demanded Zix-9. "The probes are detecting massive structures inside the barrier." Vex-7 shouted over the noise. "Commander, there are artificial objects the size of planets in there." "That is impossible." "Put it on the screen." For just a moment, their enhanced sensors pierced through the barrier. What they saw made every Zephyrian on the bridge freeze in terror. The Sol system was not empty. It was packed with huge structures that defied belief. Rings of metal and crystal surrounded the gas giant planets. A partially completed shell was being built around the sun itself. Space stations the size of moons floated everywhere. "By the void," whispered Vex-7. "They have built a civilization that spans their entire star system." But the most frightening thing was the movement. Ships moved between the structures. Not just a few ships, but thousands of them. Some were larger than anything in the current galaxy. Others were so small they could barely be detected, but they moved with purpose and intelligence. "How many ships?" asked Zix-9, though she was not sure she wanted to know. "Sensors detect at least 50,000 vessels of various sizes." "Commander, some of these ships are larger than our space stations." Zix-9 stared at the screen in shock. The humans had not been sleeping for 3,000 years. They had been building. They had turned their entire star system into a fortress and a factory. "Sir," called the communications officer, "something is happening to the barrier." On the screen, they watched as the energy field began to flicker like a dying light. The shimmer grew weaker and weaker until finally, it disappeared completely. "The barrier is down," reported Vex-7 unnecessarily. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Sol system was visible to the galaxy, and everything inside could see out. "Commander," the communications officer said in a shaky voice, "we are receiving a transmission from inside the system." "Impossible. We have not contacted them." "The transmission is not a response, sir. It appears to be a general announcement. Put it through." The voice that came through their speakers was calm and human, speaking in perfect galactic standard language. "Attention, unidentified vessel at the edge of our space. You have observed the deactivation of our privacy barrier. Please identify yourself and state your intentions. Zix-9 felt panic rise in her chest. How did they know the ship was there? The Mandible's edge was completely hidden by stealth technology. "Sir," whispered the tactical officer, "sensors show multiple objects moving toward us from inside the system. They are moving faster than our instruments can properly track." "How fast?" "At least 50 times faster than our top speed. Arrival in approximately 4 minutes. Zix-9 realized with growing horror that her mission of secret observation had become something very different. The humans knew they were there. The humans were coming. "Send a message to Zephyrian High Command," she ordered. "Tell them the barrier is down and the humans are active. Tell them we may have made a terrible mistake." "Commander," interrupted the science officer, "the approaching objects are slowing down. They will be here in 30 seconds. On the view screen, 3 human ships became visible. They were sleek and dark, seeming to bend light around them. As Zix-9 watched, the ships seemed to exist in several places at once, flickering in and out of reality. Another human voice came through their communication system. This one was different, carrying authority and something that sounded like disappointment. "Zephyrian vessel Mandible's Edge. You have violated the territorial space of Earth and observed classified human installations. Your presence here breaks the galactic accord that has kept peace for 3 millennia. How do they know our ship's name?" whispered Lieutenant Kex-4. The human voice continued. "Commander Zix-9 of the Zephyrian Hegemony, you will accompany us back to Earth for debriefing. Your crew will be treated with respect, but your ship will be impounded." Zix-9 tried to speak, but no words came out. The humans knew everything about them. They knew her name, her ship's name, probably her entire mission plan. "If you attempt to flee or resist," the voice added, almost gently, "you will be stopped. We prefer to handle this situation diplomatically." The 3 human ships moved into formation around the Mandible's Edge. Suddenly, Zix-9 felt her ship being pulled forward by some invisible force. "Commander!" shouted Vex-7. "Our engines are not responding. Something is pulling us into the Sol system." As her ship was dragged toward Earth, Zix-9 managed to send one final message towards Zephyr in space. "Command, the humans are awake. They were never asleep. Send word to the Galactic Senate. The rules have been broken, and I fear we will all pay the price." The message raced across space toward the galactic core, carrying news that would shake the foundations of known civilization. Behind it, the Mandible's Edge disappeared into the Sol system, swallowed by a race that had been waiting patiently for someone to make this exact mistake. Admiral Sarah Chun stood in the command center of Earth's planetary defense complex, watching the tactical display with calm eyes. The floating hologram showed the captured Zephyrian ship being escorted to Luna Station by human vessels. Around her, dozens of technicians worked at control panels that hummed with quiet efficiency. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Morrison from the communications station. "The Zephyrian ship has been secured at Luna. Their crew is unharmed and asking to speak with our leadership." Chun nodded. She was a tall woman with silver hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. Like all humans of her generation, her body had been enhanced with technology that made her faster, stronger, and smarter than the baseline humans of the past. But it was her mind that made her dangerous. "Have we identified which government they represent?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. They belong to something called the Galactic Accord. Our computers have been analyzing their ship's databanks. It appears that most of the known galaxy has joined together under a single government." Chung raised an eyebrow. In the 3,000 years since humanity had withdrawn from galactic affairs, they had occasionally picked up radio signals and energy signatures from distant civilizations. But they had no idea that these scattered species had organized themselves, How many members does this galactic accord have? Approximately 40,000 species, Admiral. They control most of the galaxy's habitable worlds. Admiral Chun walked to the main display and studied the star map that showed human space. Earth sat at the center, surrounded by dozens of star systems that humanity had quietly colonized over the centuries. Hidden bases, research stations, and manufacturing plants dotted the local region of space. "Ma'am," said Commander Park from the analysis station, "we have completed our review of the Zephyrian vessel's records. There is something you need to see." Chun turned to face him. "Show me." A new hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a massive space station surrounded by thousands of alien ships. "This is the Galactic Senate, located near the galactic core. According to the records, they have been meeting regularly for 3,000 years. And Admiral, they have a law about us." Chun watched as the hologram played a recording of Elder Threkos reading the rule that forbade contact with humanity. She listened to the entire debate between the young aliens and the old ones, paying special attention to the stories about the Terra Wars. When the recording ended, Chun was quiet for a long moment. "They remember us," she said finally. "Yes, ma'am. But from their perspective, we are either primitive isolationists or sleeping giants. They do not know what humanity has become." Chun almost smiled. What humanity had become was something the galaxy could not have imagined. The Terra Wars had taught them many lessons. They had learned that conquest was expensive and temporary. They had learned that ruling other species created more problems than it solved. Most importantly, they had learned patience. "Lieutenant Morrison, has the Zephyrian message reached their home space yet?" "Our long-range sensors detected the transmission being relayed through their communication networks. The entire Galactic Accord will know about this incident within hours." Chun nodded. "Then we need to act quickly. Send a message to the Defense Council. Tell them to activate Protocol 7. Commander Park looked surprised. "Ma'am, are you sure?" "Protocol 7 has never been tested in real conditions. The galaxy is about to learn that humanity still exists," Chun replied. "We need to control how that lesson is taught." She turned to address the entire command center. "All stations, this is Admiral Chun. As of this moment, Earth's isolation period has ended. We are returning to galactic affairs. I want all deep space monitoring stations activated. Contact our observation posts throughout the galaxy and tell them to reveal themselves. And send a message to the Galactic Senate." "What should the message say, Admiral?" asked Morrison. Chun thought for a moment. "Tell them that representatives of humanity wish to open diplomatic relations with the Galactic Accord. Tell them we are aware of the rule that was broken, and we would like to discuss the situation." "Should we mention our capabilities, ma'am?" "No need," Chun replied. "They will figure that out soon enough." As the crew worked to carry out her orders, Chun walked to the observation window that looked out over Earth. The planet looked peaceful from orbit, covered in blue oceans and green continents. But she knew what lay beneath that calm surface. Humanity had spent 3,000 years preparing for this day. Every major breakthrough in science and technology had been directed toward one goal: making sure that when they returned to galactic civilization, they would never again be threatened by any force in the universe. "Admiral," called Commander Park, "we are receiving reports from our monitoring stations. Galactic civilization has detected our message. The stock markets on several major trading worlds have crashed. Emergency sessions are being called in government buildings across dozens of star systems." "Good," said Chun. "Fear will make them cautious. Caution will keep them alive." The tactical display updated to show human ships throughout local space. Vessels that had been hidden for centuries were now revealing themselves. Some were explorers that had been quietly studying alien civilizations. Others were massive warships that could destroy planets. A few were so advanced that they existed partially outside normal space and time. "Ma'am, we have a response from the Galactic Senate," Morrison announced. That was fast. The message is from Elder Thrakos himself. He says, and I quote, "Honored humans, we accept your offer of diplomatic contact. Please name the time and place for negotiations. We wish to avoid any misunderstanding that might lead to conflict." Chun nodded approvingly. At least one of them remembers the old lessons. Send a reply. Tell them we will meet at a neutral location in 7 days. And tell them to bring representatives who have the authority to make important decisions. Should we mention consequences if they refuse? Ask Commander Park. Chun looked at him calmly. "Commander, what did you learn about human history in school?" "That we are a species that prefers peace but is very good at war." "Correct. The galaxy is about to remember why their ancestors made a rule about leaving us alone. We do not need to threaten them. Our mere presence will be threat enough." As Earth's command center buzzed with activity, similar scenes were playing out on human bases throughout local space. Ships that had been waiting in hidden positions for generations began moving toward their assigned locations. Weapon systems that had been built but never used came online for the first time. Scientists activated projects that had been theoretical for decades. The galaxy had remained peaceful for 3,000 years because of one simple rule: do not disturb the humans. That rule had been broken by curious aliens who thought they were investigating a primitive species. They were about to learn that humanity had never been primitive. And they had never been sleeping. They had been waiting, growing, and preparing for the day when they would take their rightful place. Among the stars, the universe was about to remember why some sleeping giants should never be. Awakened. Admiral Chun stood at her command station and watched as humanity's long isolation came to an end. The next few days would determine whether the galaxy would welcome them back peacefully, or whether the Terra Wars would seem like a minor disagreement compared to what was coming. Either way, humanity was ready. The Galactic Senate had never seen chaos like this. In the Great Assembly Hall, thousands of representatives shouted, argued, and demanded answers in hundreds of different languages. The translation systems struggled to keep up with the flood of panic and anger that filled the air. Elder Thrakos floated above the chaos, his energy form pulsing with worry. In all his long life, he had never seen the galaxy's leaders so frightened. The news of human contact had spread like wildfire through every civilized world. "Order! Order!" he called out, his mental voice cutting through the noise. "We must remain calm and think clearly." Ambassador Zix9's replacement, General Kex Prime, rose from the Zephyrian delegation. Her forearms gestured angrily as she spoke. "Elder Thrakos, one of our ships has been captured. Our people are prisoners of these humans. This is an act of war." A chorus of agreement rose from several military species, but other voices called for caution. Admiral Kethvar of the Draconic Empire stood up slowly. His massive reptilian form commanded respect throughout the hall. Unlike many others, he remembered the old stories not as myths, but as warnings. "General Kex Prime," he said in a voice like rolling thunder, "your people broke the sacred law. The humans have every right to defend themselves. We should be grateful they only captured your ship instead of destroying it. You speak like a coward," snapped Kex Prime. Kethvar's eyes glowed with ancient fire. "I speak like someone who fought beside humans during the Alliance Wars, before you were even hatched. I have seen what they can do when they are truly angry. Trust me, General, you do not want to see that again." Elder Thrakos called for silence again. "We have received a message from the humans. They wish to meet for diplomatic talks. This is our chance to solve this problem peacefully." The young diplomat from the Aquarian Federation raised a tentacle. Elder Thrakos, what if they are bluffing? One isolated star system against the entire galaxy. Even if they are advanced, we have millions of ships and billions of soldiers. Before Thrakos could answer, the hall's main communication system activated. A new voice filled the chamber, speaking in perfect galactic standard. Honored members of the Galactic Senate, this is Admiral Sarah Chun of Earth's Defense Forces. We hope this message finds you well. Every being in the hall fell silent. Hearing a human voice for the first time in 3,000 years was like listening to a ghost. We are aware that our sudden contact has caused concern throughout your civilization. This was not our intention. We simply wish to open peaceful dialogue and discuss our return to galactic society. General Kex Prime started to speak, but Thrakos signaled for quiet. We understand that some of you may question our capabilities or our intentions. To avoid any misunderstandings, we would like to demonstrate that humanity has not been idle during our isolation. The message paused. Then, throughout the galaxy, something impossible happened. On every major world, in every important star system, human ships suddenly appeared. They had been there all along, hidden and watching, but now they revealed themselves to local sensors. Billions of aliens looked up at their skies and saw vessels that should not exist. The ships were works of art and science combined. Some looked like they were made of liquid metal that flowed and changed shape. Others seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, flickering in and out of reality. A few were so large they could be seen from planetary surfaces with the naked eye. In the Senate Hall, reports poured in from across the galaxy. Human ships detected over Centauri Prime. Unknown vessels appearing in the Rigel system. Massive human fleet visible from the surface of New Draconia. But the reports that truly frightened the galactic leaders came from their military commanders. Human ships were not just appearing near populated worlds. They had positioned themselves at every major hyperspace junction, every important trade route, and every strategic military base. In less than an hour, humanity had revealed that they had been present throughout the galaxy for centuries. Watching and waiting. Admiral Chun's voice continued calmly through the chaos. We want to assure you that these ships are not an invasion force. They are simply making their presence known as a gesture of openness. We've been your neighbors for a very long time, even though you did not know it. Elder Thrakos felt a chill run through his energy form. The implications were staggering. If humans had been secretly present throughout the galaxy, what else did they know? What other capabilities were they hiding? Our diplomatic vessel will arrive at the neutral station Omega-7 in 6 days, Chun continued. We look forward to productive discussions about humanity's place in galactic civilization. Until then, we ask that all members of the Galactic Accord avoid any aggressive actions. We would hate for there to be any unfortunate misunderstandings. The message ended, leaving the Senate in stunned silence. General Kex Prime was the first to speak. This is clearly a threat. They are positioning their forces to attack our worlds. No, said Admiral Kefar quietly. This is a demonstration. They are showing us that they could have attacked us at any time during the past 3,000 years, but chose not to. They are offering us peace while reminding us what the alternative would be. Reports continued to flood in from across the galaxy. Human technology was far beyond anything the Galactic Accord possessed. Ships that could exist in multiple dimensions. Communication systems that worked instantly across any distance. Energy sources that seemed to violate known physics, but perhaps most disturbing were the economic reports. Within hours of the human revelation, several galactic industries had shut down completely. Jump gate networks experienced mysterious failures. Communication systems stopped working properly. The terrible truth was becoming clear. Humanity had not just been watching the galaxy for 3,000 years. They had quietly integrated themselves into galactic infrastructure. They had access to everything: communications, transportation, manufacturing, even entertainment networks. "They have been inside our civilization all along," whispered the Aquarian diplomat. Elder Thrakos nodded grimly. "The question is no longer whether we can defeat the humans in war. The question is whether our civilization could even function without them." A new report arrived from the Galactic Intelligence Services. Analysis of human technology showed that they had achieved what scientists called a Type 2 civilization. They had mastered the energy output of their entire star. They had built structures that spanned solar systems. They had developed technologies that the galaxy's best minds could not even understand. "How is this possible?" demanded Kex Prime. 3,000 years ago, they were barely more advanced than we were," Admiral Kethvar answered with the wisdom of age. 3,000 years ago, they were warriors fighting a galactic war. Today, they are something much more dangerous. They are warriors who've had 3 millennia to prepare for the next war. The Senate debated through the night, but the conclusion was inevitable. Humanity was not requesting permission to rejoin galactic society. They were informing the galaxy that they were taking their place whether the Accord liked it or not. The only choice left was whether that transition would be peaceful or violent. As the session finally ended, Elder Thrakos sent a private message to his oldest allies throughout the galaxy. "Prepare for a new age. The humans are returning, and they are no longer the species we once knew. They have become something beyond our understanding, and we must hope that they still remember what mercy means." The universe had one rule about humans: do not disturb them. That rule had been broken, and now the galaxy was about to learn what 3,000 years of human evolution had created. It was going to be a very interesting negotiation. The neutral station Omega-7 floated in empty space between two spiral arms of the galaxy. Built centuries ago for important diplomatic meetings, it had hosted peace talks between dozens of species. But it had never been the site of negotiations. That would determine the fate of galactic civilization itself. Admiral Sarah Chun's ship approached the station like a dream made real. The vessel seemed to exist in several dimensions at once, its hull shifting between solid matter and pure energy. Local sensors could barely detect it, even though it was the size of a small city. Inside the station's main conference room, representatives from the Galactic Accord waited nervously. Elder Thrakos had chosen the delegation carefully, species known for their wisdom rather than their military power. The Aquarian Federation's best diplomats. The Crystal Singers of Harmony Prime. Even Admiral Kethvar was there, representing those who remembered the old alliance. General Kex Prime had also been included, though she sat apart from the others, her forearms crossed in barely controlled anger. "Sensors show the human vessel is docking," announced the station's AI. "Atmospheric conditions are being adjusted for human requirements." A few minutes later, the conference room doors opened. Admiral Sarah Chun entered, followed by 2 other humans. The galactic representatives got their first look at what humanity had become. Chun moved with fluid grace that seemed almost unnatural. Her eyes held an intelligence that processed information faster than most computer systems. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that suggested she existed partially outside normal space-time. "Thank you for meeting with us," she said, taking a seat at the conference table. "I am Admiral Sarah Chun, speaking for the United Governments of Humanity." Elder Thrakos' energy form pulsed with curiosity. "Admiral Chun, we are honored by your presence. May we ask, what happened to your species during the isolation period?" Chun smiled, and it was neither cruel nor kind. It was the expression of a being who had moved beyond the concerns that troubled lesser species. "We evolved, Elder Thrakos. We adapted. We became what we needed to be." She activated a holographic display that showed the true extent of human civilization. hidden colonies throughout the galaxy, observation posts that have been watching alien species for millennia, technology that defied known physics. For 3,000 years, we have been among you, Chun continued. We have studied your cultures, learned your languages, and watched your civilizations grow. We have been the customers in your markets, the travelers on your ships, and the voices on your communication networks. The Aquarian diplomat raised a tentacle nervously. You mean, some of the beings we have interacted with over the centuries were actually humans in disguise? Not disguise, Chun corrected. True physical transformation. We developed the ability to take any form necessary for our observations. We have been your neighbors, your colleagues, and sometimes your friends. You simply did not know it. General Kex Prime slammed her arms on the table. This is outrageous. You have been spying on us for thousands of years. Chun turned to look at her, and Kex Prime felt a chill run through her exoskeleton. The human's eyes held depths that seemed to go on forever. General, we have been protecting you. What do you mean? Chun's expression became serious. In 3,000 years of watching the galaxy, we have prevented 17 major wars, stopped 43 acts of genocide, and quietly eliminated numerous threats to galactic civilization. You never knew about these dangers because we made sure you never had to face them. She activated another hologram showing various alien threats that had been destroyed by human forces. Ancient machines that devoured entire star systems. Aggressive species from other galaxies. Plague organisms that could wipe out all organic life. Each time, we dealt with these problems quietly, without taking credit or revealing ourselves. We wanted the galaxy to develop peacefully, without constant fear of extinction. Admiral Kethvar leaned forward. Why? Why protect species that would have feared you? Because, Chun replied, we learned from the Terra Wars that conquest is empty if you destroy what you are trying to protect. We wanted to see what galactic civilization could become if it was allowed to grow without the constant threat of annihilation. Elder Threkos pulsed with understanding. You have been gardeners, tending a galactic civilization like a precious plant. An appropriate metaphor, Chun agreed. But now the garden has grown large enough to sustain itself. It is time for humanity to take its place openly among the stars. And what place is that? Asked the Aquarian diplomat. Chun stood up and walked to the large window that showed the galaxy spread out in all its glory. We propose a new arrangement. The Galactic Accord will continue to govern most species and systems. But humanity will take responsibility for threats that are beyond normal capabilities. We will be the guardians against the darkness between stars. And if we refuse? General Kex Prime demanded. Chun turned back to the table. Then we will respect your decision and return to our isolation. But we will no longer protect you from threats you cannot handle alone. The galaxy will have to face its dangers without our help. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. 3,000 years of hidden protection would end. Ancient threats that humanity had been quietly fighting would be left for others to handle. You are blackmailing us, Kex Prime accused. No, said Admiral Kethvar quietly. They are offering us a choice. Partnership or independence. Both have consequences. Chun nodded approvingly at the old warrior. Admiral Kethvar understands. We are not demanding control. We are offering to continue doing what we have always done, but openly instead of in secret. Elder Threkos asked the question that everyone was thinking. What guarantees do we have that humanity will not eventually decide to conquer the galaxy? Chun's smile returned. The same guarantee we gave 3,000 years ago. If we had wanted to conquer the galaxy, we would have done it already. We had the power then, and we have far more power now. Conquest has never been our goal. She returned to her seat. We want to see what galactic civilization can achieve where it is not limited by fear and ignorance. We want to explore the universe together, to learn and grow, and become something greater than any single species can achieve alone. The negotiations continued for hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The galaxy had two choices: accept humanity as a partner, or face an uncertain future alone. In the end, the vote was unanimous. Humanity would rejoin galactic civilization as a senior member of the Galactic Accord. They would have permanent seats in the Senate and the authority to deal with threats beyond normal capabilities. As the meeting ended and representatives prepared to return to their homeworlds, Elder Threkos approached Admiral Chun. "Admiral, may I ask you a personal question?" "Of course." "Are you still human? Or have you become something else entirely?" Chun considered the question carefully. "We are what humanity chose to become when faced with an infinite universe full of wonders and dangers. We are still human in our hearts, but we are no longer limited by what humans used to be." She looked out at the stars one more time. "The universe is vast and strange, Elder Threkos. It requires guardians who can match its challenges. We've spent 3,000 years preparing to be those guardians." As the human ship departed from the station and vanished into hyperspace, Elder Threkos sent a message to the entire galaxy. The age of human isolation has ended. We welcome them back not as conquerors or masters, but as the elder siblings of galactic civilization. May this partnership bring prosperity and peace to all species under the stars. That in his private thoughts, he added a prayer to whatever cosmic forces might be listening, and may they always remember that power without. Mercy is the path to becoming the very monsters they once fought against. The universe had one rule about humans: do not disturb them. That rule had been broken, and the galaxy discovered that some sleeping giants wake up not with anger, but with wisdom. Humanity had returned to the stars, not as the warriors they once were, but as the protectors they had chosen to become. The golden age of galactic civilization was about to begin.